Hey guys, welcome to the Tone Show. My name is Anthony Tone Show Nunez, and today I'm talking about Fear the Walking Dead, Season 3, Episode 12, Brother's Keeper. From the beginning of the episode, we knew it was called Brother's Keeper. So you guys assumed the same thing that I did. This was going to be all about Jake and Troy, right? The Otto boys. Well, it's actually a bigger picture on this one. It's really about the Clarks and the Ottos. We have to jog our memory a little bit and remember how we met Troy. Troy was a psychopath from the beginning. And the reason that Nick felt that he had to get close to Troy was to keep an eye on him because he didn't trust his mother's judgment. Madison has a hell of a judgment, right? He didn't trust his mother's judgment with Troy around. He knew Troy was dangerous. He was literally executing people to see how long it would take for them to turn. Psychopath from the beginning, right? So Nick wanted to keep a close eye on him, and he thought joining the militia was a great way to do that. So Jake, on the other half, is a good brother, and Troy's the bad brother. That's pretty clear here. But when they say brother's keeper, it's really odd because I thought this was actually speaking about the Ottos, but it was really speaking about Nick and Troy. And the fact that Nick has a weird affinity for Troy. And we saw that when Nick saved Troy and when he was in the house barricaded and he was basically going to go all out. He was going to martyr himself, right? And Nick felt it was his duty to go in there and save Troy's life. And here Troy has returned again because Troy has no boundaries, y'all. He doesn't understand stay away. And we know he wasn't going to stay away. Come on. He was too good of a character to throw away in the dust like that. Like Nick's girlfriend, right? She was a good character too. What happened to her? I thought she'd come back. Anyway, so Troy, we knew he was going to come back. We knew he was going to cause trouble. And Nick takes Jake, of all people, his brother, right? Who we know can't put Troy down. Why he took him with him? So at the end of the day, my brother's keeper is really about Nick and Troy. They both have this strange affinity towards death. They're both kind of sick in their own way. And even Nick himself said it, that Troy and him have more in common in a sickness that they have. And it's a different sickness, don't get me wrong. Nick is not a psychopath like Troy. But both of them are battling a sickness. And I think that Nick sees part of himself in Troy. Did you guys see that part? Where when Troy came to Nick's house, which is really his father's house that he's living in, and they were both standing next to each other, and you saw the darkness on the face of Nick, and on the opposite side, you saw the darkness of the face of Troy. It was basically two people. It was two sides of a coin that we saw right there, head and tails. And Nick and Troy, that was incredible foreshadowing, and I think just a metaphor for who they are. Like, so you saw one side black and one side clear, and these two characters, they're basically two sides of the same coin. Nick and Troy have a lot in common, believe it or not. And I think Nick sees this, and Troy sees it too. And you see that they have this strange broosity, right? This bromance going on. And to the point that Jake, who is the good brother, he goes to actually finally kill his brother, which I don't think he was going to go through with it. And Nick hits Jake upside the head, and Jake falls, and Jake ends up getting freaking zombie food, right? He ends up being zombie food. Correction, not zombie food, infected food. Because in Fear the Walking Dead, they call the zombies the infected, not like The Walking Dead where they call them the walkers. Interesting tidbit, that the reason they call them walkers, and in this case, in Fear the Walking Dead infected, is because zombie movies never supposedly existed, I was reading, in the Walking Dead universe. So that's why they call them infected and walkers, because they don't have zombie movies in the Robert Kirkman universe. So that's why they never call them zombies on the show. But anyway, going back, that's why that Nick actually saves Troy, hits Jake in the head, which ends up being Jake's death, right? And you saw that moment where his arm was cut off and Nick is yelling to Troy, hey, how long does it take? How long does it take? Because remember, Troy was actually conducting those experiments, and he said based on body fitness, age, gender, the amount of time it would take for them to turn to the infected, the zombies, would vary. So that's why he was screaming at him, how long, Troy, how long? But Troy couldn't remember. Troy, at that point, he's partly famished. He's tired, he's dehydrated, and his brother's just been bitten, so he doesn't know what to do, right? So they cut off his arm, which is Walking Dead lore right now. Everybody knows that in The Walking Dead now, if you chop off the infected limb quick enough, hopefully the infection doesn't spread and you become a walker. In this case, the infected on Fear the Walking Dead. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and Jake died. This is a bigger message. Anybody good doesn't make it. It just seems like this is an ongoing message, an overhead message that we see clearly on The Walking Dead and on Fear Fear the Walking Dead. Since Madison's husband, her boyfriend, he didn't make it either. And we knew he wasn't gonna make it. And it's because he was a good guy. The guy was a good guy from all along. We knew he was a good guy. He had a good heart. And his character basically was to show us, hey, can somebody good really make it in this world? And obviously not. And Jake has a good heart too. And from the beginning, I'm like, Jake is not gonna make it. Jake is too good for this. He's too good for this world. They don't deserve him, right? And Jake ended up being killed. And obviously Troy is shocked by this. And he lost his brother. He cares for his brother. He came back just to warn Nick and his brother. Those are two people he really cared about. And probably Madison. He has some sick like mommy issues with Madison, right? But anyway, he loses his brother. His brother gets bitten. And Nick is there, and he's like, Jake's been killed, but he doesn't really take responsibility. At no time do we see that Jake is like, that Nick is like, man, I killed Jake. If I had not hit him over the head, he wouldn't have rolled downhill. No, Nick is more concerned with saving Troy, who is his real brother's keeper, right? That's who we're talking about. We're talking about brother's keeper. We're talking about Troy and Nick, and those two have an affinity for death. They have an affinity for living on the edge. And the reason that the infantry, the militia inside the ranch follow Nick, and they come to Nick because he stood up with Troy at the end in that little that standoff they had, right? Is because they see Troy and Nick. They see that same hero. They see that same leader. They see that same sick person. And that's what I think it is. So that's what the episode is talking about when they say brother's keeper. They're talking about the relation between Troy and Nick. Haven't really seen, it's been a while since we've seen a herd like this, especially on Fear the Walking Dead. These last episodes have basically been small studies of different groups. We didn't really see a group of this large. And this magnitude of walkers, we see a lot on The Walking Dead, but we haven't really seen on Fear the Walking Dead. So it was interesting to see that magnitude of walkers on the show. What I think is also interesting about Fear the Walking Dead versus The Walking Dead universe is that The Walking Dead has expanded so much. We have the Kingdom, we have Rick's group, we have Negan's group, the Saviors. Fear the Walking Dead is a much smaller group, so we get to really intricately study these people and see a much more intimate picture of survival. We had that originally with the other show, The Walking Dead, but as the show has grown so long, so big, and is so long, and the cast is so large, it's much harder to follow the characters. There's so many of them, and get that innate feeling, that intimate feeling with the characters. And that's something I think that Fear the Walking Dead has really benefited from. That the cast is a smaller cast. Don't get me wrong, it's an ensemble, but it's a much smaller cast compared to the bigger show, The Walking Dead. And I feel like we've really been able to appreciate the characters more and get to know them because of the size and the scale of the show. But this episode, they brought out all the zombies, all the walkers, the infected. It was pretty heavy and it was pretty dope. It was nice to see a group that big because we haven't seen it. And Ophelia almost didn't make it. And I was like, oh man, Ophelia's gonna get killed. Ophelia's gonna get killed, and Daniel's gonna be like, Salazar's gonna go nuts, right? He's gonna go Rambo, Black Shadow, Dark Shadow on everybody, Sombra Negra, right? So Ophelia barely made it, y'all. I wasn't sure if that was gonna happen. And you know how these shows, they love to tease. Just like when we lost Chris, he never came back to the group. I was like, wow, is Ophelia gonna see her father? And they almost didn't, right? Ophelia almost didn't make it. So that was pretty cool, right? So right now they're all trapped in the same place where they keep their inventory of their weapons. It's up to Nick and Troy, the brothers, to get them out. And I think when Madison returns with Walker, she's gonna basically be like, "What the hell, kids? I left you at home." You know when the parents leave and the kids throw a party in the room and they basically wreck the house. That's what happened. She left the Clarks, her daughter and son, Alicia and Nick, in charge, and everything went to shit. Right? So when Madison comes back with Walker, Walker's gonna be pissed and Madison's gonna be pissed. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I'm also looking forward to seeing Daniel Salazar reunite with Ophelia. I think that's gonna be a really cool moment with those come back together. And it's gonna be really cool to see Strand and to see Nick together again. I'm looking forward to Strand and Nick reuniting and to see what's going to be Strand's take on Troy, because Strand is a really good judge of character, and I'm really looking forward to see how he's going to treat Troy and the new dynamic, because he always kind of leans towards Nick, as we've seen. They have kind of like an unspoken relationship. He understands Nick, so it's going to be interesting to see how his new friend, his brother Troy, fits in the picture. Anyway, this is the Tone Show. If you guys like my reviews, make sure to subscribe and like. And as always, Tone Show.
Remember to like and subscribe for more Tone Show.